Listen up, Megan. Welcome to the Slaughterhouse. Perfect!
Hey! Good evening, everybody. Good morning from Australia. We are here for Streamathon 2022, the first one. You've caught us on the first ever Streamathon. It is 5 hours, 5 channels, starting with, myself, Ryan, and then we'll be over at Ken's, and then that's the order that we're going in. So straight after here, we'll be jumping over to Dreadnought Ryan's channel. I'll put a link in the description by the end. Then we're over to Ken at Toykennections, Phil from Treasure for Trigger, and Adam from GoFigure. How are you all?
Fantastic. Never better than I am right now.
Yeah. Bring it
on.
We're talking toys. There's no better place to be, better time, better place to go.
We have a bunch of people in the chat already. Travis Moody says, yo, he was here an hour early.
What up, Moody?
Gaz, channel member Gaz.
Gaz.
Dale in the house. They gone, and then he left, but he'll be back. And then greater numbers.
18 minutes.
Burnsy baby. KB. Channel member Joe Recondo. Jim Largo, how are you, mate? Everyone relax. Don't panic. It's Hans Chow.
The living legend, Hans Chow.
The man, the myth.
Scott Hughes, hello, Scott. TJC, what does TJC stand for?
He'll have to tell us.
Yeah, tell us. Scuba Pete.
All right.
Cody's in the house.
Hey, Cody.
You have to tell us what KB stands for, too. Hello. Good morning from Australia. Welcome to Streamathon 2022. I couldn't think of 4 other people that I would rather do this with than you guys. So thanks for indulging me in this, what we are calling probably the longest, shortest setup for a stream ever. A lot of planning and no planning at the same time happened to get this to work.
Yeah.
So, here we are. Burnsy baby is Space Commander reporting from Martian Barbecue.
Oh, that's who he is. Okay.
Yeah. So good to see you, buddy. He's got many aliases. He needs certain aliases when being out in space. Speaking of space, we're talking Star Wars first. So the 5 hours over 5 channels, starting here with Star Wars first. Then we'll be talking G.I. Joe over at Dreadnought Ryan's channel, which is the Island of Misfit Toy Collectors. And then we're going to Transformers, because of course we are with Ken, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with Phil, and then Adam's going to bring us home with Masters of the Universe, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
It's the way to do
it. It's 5 hours, sounds like a lot of time, but it's not. Hang with us, guys. This is going to be great.
We're like half of the director's cut of Fellowship of the Ring. That's all we are.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to say Justice League, but I think you got me beat with Fellowship of the Ring. So
we've got 4 hobbits and a dwarf.
Who's the dwarf?
We'll talk about it.
So the idea was that we were going to come up with 5 different toy lines and then come up with our own personal choices on who we thought the unsung heroes were, underrated action figures and or characters. In the end, I think we ended up just picking up some of our favorites, right? So you might think that some of these are not underrated. You might agree with us and think that they are underrated, or you might just think that they're not that great, depending on how you want to look at it. So let us start first with Adam, your underrated character, the Hoth Trooper.
That's right. So when I was thinking about underrated, you got to stay away from, again, the ones that are just your favorites, because there's definitely better figures in the Star Wars line than the Hoth Trooper. But this guy was one of the first that I remember as a kid, like hero-sided army builders.
Right.
Like it wasn't a stormtrooper. It wasn't like a horde trooper. It was just like it wasn't a like a Cobra soldier, generic Cobra soldier, or Viper of however many names. But it was a way you could build a hero army. So I thought that was, a cool way to look at it. But also, so I grew up in Northern Ontario, Canada, where it's like snow for 8 to 9 months of the year. Then we get a really hot 2 months, and then it snows again. So this guy or any Hoth figure was better than any other figure because we had a constant playset outside. It was always Hoth in Canada if you had your action figures outside.
Right.
So this guy was always being played with. Also, in a pinch, he could be Hoth Luke pretty easily.
True.
So he's playing double duty. If you pick up a Hoth trooper, you all of a sudden have like a surrogate Luke figure. But once you get that Hoth Luke figure and you have that, this guy really became like me as a kid.
Right.
I could put myself into the Star Wars universe by having this trooper ready to go. Because he was an unnamed hero, and I could then be, I'm like, oh, and here comes Adam coming along to help the rebels. So, like, he's as well sculpted and put together as anybody else in the Star Wars, especially at that time, Empire line. But I think he pulled he pulled off 3 magic tricks.
Well, I don't disagree with you. Well, Scuba Pete Army builds these dudes. He also says, Cody says that looks good in a snowcat. And Scott said that this was his very first Empire Strikes Back figure.
Fantastic.
Well, Dale says he only saw the Empire was a better movie, so those figures would be pretty cool in the snow. I had no snow where I was growing up. I had sand dunes, so we had Tatooine only. So Hoth battles were looked a little bit weird unless we threw over like a white blanket over some cushions and stuff, make it look like snow that way. Burnsy baby. I love Star Wars. Disney ruined it. If I didn't know that this was Space Commander before, I definitely would now. Scott says, if I'm not mistaken, Hoth Rebel Soldier was available before Hoth Luke. Regardless, it was my Hoth Luke for a long time.
Exactly, 100%.
So imprinting yourself on a character, especially a nameless character, was something that I used to do as a kid as well. So I can completely relate with that idea there. Did Ryan, did you have this figure as a kid?
I did. Actually, when Empire came out in 1980, that was like for Christmas, I got the Star Wars, just tons of stuff from my mom and dad. So this was one of my first figures, and living in Michigan, same thing with Adam. We get a couple months of nice weather, and then the rest of it's just cold and miserable. So these troopers were always, fun to play with and to have. So yeah, definitely brings back some good memories.
What about you, Ken? Did you partake in any of the Hoth Trooper or Star Wars action figures?
Well, I mean, where I live over on the West Coast, we alternate mostly between looking like Endor and looking a bit like Hoth. We never get the Tatooine look out here. So I love the Hoth stuff. I did not own Star Wars toys as a kid. I owned the other 4 toy lines we're going to talk about today, but Star Wars was my late introduction. I got into it more as a teenager during a special edition run. So I never really got to collect these, but I'm kind of fascinated by them now because of the simplicity of the 5 POA, right? Because the first time I got 3 3/4 inch figures, it was Joe's, right?
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, these don't have knee articulation or elbow articulation, but I just enjoy these. And when I first saw this, I actually thought it was Hoth Luke until I saw the actual Hoth Luke. I don't army build them, but I ended up with 2 by accident just because I bought one, forgot I bought it, bought another one, went to put it on display and was, I've already got one on display. So I guess I have 2. So not the worst thing to army build, though, to be honest with you.
No. So Scuba Pete says, my brother had him, and I always see him in that figure. I had Hoth Luke. We were inseparable. Yeah, when I look at some action figures now, it does bring me back to thoughts and feelings of me and my brothers growing up. So some action figures will trigger Treasures for Trigger. I'm coming to you next, mate. They will trigger in my mind. an association with one or both of my brothers. Joe says, "Oh, my internet keeps cutting.
Sorry.
Great all day. Oh, that's all right, mate. If hopefully it sorts itself out." And KB says, "Have a great day, work calls." All right, enjoy your work day, buddy.
Take care, KB.
So, Phil, did you have this action figure, buddy?
No, Star Wars was a little bit before my time. My older brothers had a lot of Star Wars, and yeah, I'm like a couple of you other guys. I thought when I first saw this figure it was Hoth Luke as well. But I do have a lot of memories with my older brothers playing with Star Wars and things like that. But I haven't really got into collecting Star Wars figures myself until recently. So this is the line that I'm least familiar with, probably out of the 5 lines that we're going to be talking about today. But yeah, a nice looking figure though.
Oh yeah, he looks great. Grindhead Jim says, "I loved this figure as a child. I always pretended he was Luke. I reckon this was probably a lot of kids' Luke."
Yeah.
Articulated Chad says, "Greetings all, fashionably late." Yes,
Hey,
better
Chad.
to be fashionably late than not at all, right? But good to see you, Chad.
And I think too, when we look at as collectors, we want to have them all. Like I want to have every He-Man I can that was made. I want to have every Luke that was made. But when we were kids, it was like when you said to your mom or your dad, like, "Oh, can I get another Luke?" They'd be like, "Well, don't you have Luke? Why don't you get somebody you don't have yet?" So there's always this, like, do I get another version of the same character? So this guy really skated under that radar. You got a Hoth Luke, but without any negotiation.
Yeah. I do think that he's got a lot of detail for an action figure of that time.
Yeah.
5 POA, so he sits right in Space Commander's wheelhouse. He loves 5 POA. Quick hello to Anthony Whitehead. How are you, buddy? The detail that they put on him for a nameless character, it's a lot of detail, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The diamond pattern. Yeah, I mean, is he? I think I couldn't quite tell, but I think he was supposed to be this character that I've got in the photo here. At least that's what I think the card showed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to give props as well to like the Luke Hoth that they didn't just do a repaint of this mold.
Right.
Yeah.
Different sculpt, right? Where a repaint would have been easy.
Did they not use the same legs? No, right?
I don't think so. I think back in the day it was all like from the ground up, new every time.
Yeah, with when Empire came out, Star Wars, those figures had just blown up. So Kenner really put a ton of effort and money into this line because they had everything out for the Empire.
So this character just came with that blaster then? That's his accessory?
Yeah.
Not a bad one to have. At least it came with a blaster. For me, I was born in 1980, so a lot of the action figures that came out before that, the A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, I think for me, I inherited a bunch.
Yep.
If I had them, or I got whatever came out after, probably. I remember Star Wars vividly, but I never remember where it started. Like I remember where G.I. Joe started. I remember where Transformers started, but I can't remember where Star Wars started. It just has always been there. I would say it's probably the first line of action figures that I collected. Whenever I saw one, it was like, can I get one? And that continued well into the lifespan of Star Wars. And when they came back again, I started picking up the new figures too. The big bulky ones that came out after in the 90s. But this is a great looking figure. I don't recall having this one, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was somewhere in my collection somehow.
And the cool thing with Star Wars as well that like would never happen today was when Empire came out, they released all the new Empire figures, but they also released the Star Wars figures on Empire cards. And then when Jedi came out, they released all the Empire figures on Jedi cards. So when I got the Hoth Trooper, it was on a Jedi card.
Yep, gotcha.
Again, I wasn't there for the Empire figures to come out, but I was there for the Jedi figures to come out. So it was a whole. They just kept them. Can you imagine now if like every line they're like, "Oh, we'll just release all the figures again"? It'd be incredible.
So Brandon Haley's in the house. Morning, tuned in to one of my favorite figures. I ended up with 2 of him in 1981. That's awesome. Well, you've tuned in on the first figure, so you haven't missed much. Yeah, so welcome. So if I did have it, it would have definitely have been on the Jedi card. What was after Jedi? It was Power of the Force?
Power of the Force with the coins, yeah.
Yeah, I think I would have had a bunch of those too. All right, all good. Anyone else got anything they want to throw out there on Hoth Trooper? Do we think he's underrated? Do we think he's rated? Do we think that he's...
I think he's got a lot of play value, like twice as much as any other figure, really. And he's not a guy who you see taking super high prices on the aftermarket.
Yeah.
I think at this point in time,
well, I mean, now that you've talked him up, Adam.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, now you know the price is going up. Having a troop builder at this point in time was just awesome, especially with that whole Hoth battle scene. You wanted to be able to replay all of that stuff in your head, and having these extra troopers always made it possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, they were either, depending on which side you were on, you were either using them to mow down the snow troopers, or they were losing and getting blown up by your stormtroopers and your AT-ATs. So to me, that's what gives this. I think it's rated just exactly where it needs to be. And like Adam was saying, they're not overpriced, so we can't say they're overrated. Or at least I don't think we can. So that's where I stand with it.
Yep, I agree. Phil?
But these Star Wars figures the prices are starting to explode, aren't they? Like, I picked up a couple of figures a couple of years ago now, and I sort of moved away from Star Wars, and I came back to them recently, actually because we're doing this stream, and I got curious about them again, and like the prices are just, they seem like they've doubled in the last couple of years or something. Even in Japan, I thought I might be able to get away with getting a few cheaper ones here, but no, they've gone up in price here as well.
Yeah,
which is a shame.
I remember being able to go in high school and see bags full of Star Wars or G.I. Joe, Transformers at garage sales for $1. And I just kick myself now for, you should have bought them.
So we here at toy shows, they were never overly expensive, right? It was almost impossible to get a full run of Star Wars before the internet, right? And some of them were pretty highly priced before then because it was just a collector selling his own collection. And then the internet opened up a whole opportunity to start buying stuff, and that was flooded the market with Star Wars, and they became pretty affordable for a little while. But yeah, they're getting up there. All right, so we'll move on to the next character. I think, this guy is popular enough to, and probably one of the first troop builders, right? Moving on to the Royal Guard. Nice.
All right, so this is my pick, and I'm not sure if this would be regarded as an underrated figure or not. So yeah, I'm fairly new to Star Wars collecting, but this is the figure that really grabbed my attention and got me interested in collecting Star Wars figures. And actually, Return of the Jedi is probably the first. I've kind of watched the movies in reverse order, I think, because I'm also an 80s kid. So I was more familiar with the figures and characters, I think, from Return of the Jedi. And I remember I've got a couple of older brothers who are a few years older than me, and I remember they had the Star Wars posters up on their walls. And one of the posters I vividly remember was one with Darth Vader with all of the Royal Guard behind him, and just the color of the Royal Guard just pops so much compared to all of the black and white and things that you see on screen. So I absolutely love this figure. I'm assuming it's probably fairly popular, and this would be a figure too that I would love to troop build or army build if I had the chance. I've got one figure of him, but I would like to get more. And I think the great thing about this figure as well is because of the lack of articulation with these old Star Wars figures, the red cloak kind of covers all of those lack of knee joints and elbow joints and things like that. So he looks perfect just standing still to attention without having to move him around too much. So I really do love this guy.
We get a yo from Uncanny Swag. Scott says, and this was my last Star Wars figure I ever had. Ironically, I just sold it to Scuba Pete. The characters were always so mysterious and menacing. Payne's toy collector he said his ex-wife and mother sold all the Joe figures for $5 in 1996. That's rough. That's rough. $5 each or the whole lot for $5? That's rough. I'm sorry that happened to you, buddy. So the Royal Guard was one of my favorite Star Wars action figures of all time. In fact, this guy became my big bad in Star Wars. This guy was the leader of the Empire. I only had one, and he became the big bad. He was bigger and badder than even Darth Vader. That's how I used him. I definitely remember getting this guy. I definitely remember loving this guy. And even now, to this day, it brings back fond memories just looking at this guy. He's great. Personally speaking, he's great.
And the quality of the cloth material is so good as well. Like mine's still in mint, like the colors faded a little bit, but the condition of it is just amazing. Like they put in good quality stuff with these figures for sure.
This and I think it was Jedi Luke were the first figures I had with really soft goods material, and I was just blown away. I remember getting this one and wiggling the head off, thinking I'll be able to see what the face looks like underneath it.
Yeah.
But it was just, he was such a dominant looking character, and to have him with your others, same way with me, Zazel. He was like my, evil bounty hunter, Jedi hunter. It was just an awesome figure to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something like this could be shown leading the stormtroopers, right? Like it has that grand look. Like, yes, it's a kind of a generic army builder, but the way it looks, it could be a general, right? It could be a captain of the guard. It could be something. So because of the way it looks, if people used him as the big bad, I could easily see it that way. And I do wonder if any of the expanded universe books would have honed in on a Royal Guard to give them more of a personality and kind of turn them into something of a boss level, even like a mid-boss, the boss before the boss type of character, the Sagat before the M. Bison. That would be, I wonder if any of the books ever explored that, because that would be really a great angle to look into for a Royal Guard, if you ask me.
I know the comics for a while made them pretty badass. They were. Anyone knows more than I do about it, please say so. But I do remember seeing a few highlights for these guys in the comic books. Chad says the only issue with Return of the Jedi figures was the fact almost the entire run had sticks and no blasters. Yeah, fair enough. Case of stuff infections. Jeez. Brennan says I liked him, but hard to make him look dynamic. You can't see the great sculpting, legs and body, etc. under the cloth, so I cut off the leg coverings. So whoever has that one now, it was me who cut him.
Got a short skirt.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So for me, I'm of two minds of this. Is that as a kid, I had no time for this figure because he didn't do anything on screen. Like in the movie, they just stood there. And like all kinds of awesome stuff was happening around them, and they didn't do anything. So again, in Canada we didn't get as many as everybody else did. But I remember just thinking like I'm not going to waste a figure purchase on a guy who just stands there. As a toy collector now, I'm like, he looks incredible. He's got the great soft goods. He pops on the shelf in a sea of beige, black, and white. This guy pops out, and he's maybe one of the most regal looking figures from the 80s. Like he's fantastic. But there's also like a soft spot for the Royal Guards for me. Not this one, but the Power of the Force 2 ones. When I first started dating my wife back in 2001 was when I first started becoming like a really avid collector and going on figure hunts. So it was when we were first dating, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going on a figure hunt with my buddy Cam. Do you need anything?" Like tee hee hee. And she was like, "Well, yeah. Why don't you get me one of the Royal Guards?" Ha ha. Thinking that they didn't have any Royal Guard figures.
Okay.
I brought her home a Power of the Force 2, and I was like, "There you go." And then
Nice.
for the next like year, when I go on fig hunts, I'd find one. I built a collection of these royal guards. And she was like, I didn't actually want this. Like I was just goofing on you. Stop buying these for me.
Well, after that, they become less for her and more for you, right?
Yeah.
At this point, I can't stop. It's got to keep
There's
going.
a sweet collection of royal guards.
So Scott says they were supposed to be the extreme elite of the Stormtroopers ranks and only answered directly to the Emperor. There is a deleted scene from Return of the Jedi where they actually face down Vader. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of comments in the chat about the expanded universe or Legends canon as well. It'd be good to, because I find even if it's not canon anymore, sometimes the best stories aren't necessarily the ones that are canon. Like I played a lot of the Knights of the Old Republic video games, read Heir to the Empire. So if these royal guards are an elite squad that does more than what they're shown in Return of the Jedi somewhere, sign me up, sign anyone up. I mean, they deserve some more backstory. Yeah.
I've moved everybody up. I always feel bad when I put a thing out and it blocks Phil's face. So I'll block my own face.
I think Ken is pushing for the Disney Plus Royal Guard series.
I'm pushing for Darth Revan more than I'm pushing for anybody else if I could. But yes, royal guards are pretty cool. So
I think when they the pre-Royal Guards in what was it, the prequel trilogy, and they were blue.
Mm-hmm.
What were they called? I don't think they were Royal Guards, but I
think they're called the Blue Man Group.
Blue Man Group. Yes, I knew it. Yeah. Smurfette and Papa Smurf. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what were they called though? They had they looked more like
weren't they like Senate guards or something?
Maybe Senate guards. Yeah. They didn't look as cool as this, but you could see that they were definitely had a theme going. Blue though. So I think that this character is highly rated, fan favorite, as well as strikingly cool. I don't think any kid would have been upset to have this in their collection. In fact, I wasn't.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool. Very cool. What do you guys think as far as rating him is concerned?
Yeah, especially as a collector now, like I think this is one of the top Jedi figures at least.
Yeah, I agree.
definitely not overrated. Let's put it that way.
No, underrated.
Yeah,
underrated. No, it's not overrated. Yeah, what am I saying?
That's what I'm saying.
He's highly rated. Yeah,
highly rated without being overrated.
The blue guards were the Senate guard. Perfect. Okay,
yeah,
cheers, buddy.
Gaz
Thanks, Gaz.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. All right, are we happy to move on from the Royal Guard? Great pick, Phil. Thanks for bringing me down this epic childhood memory of owning this character. So, yeah, one of my personal favorites. Thank you.
All good.
All right, moving on to Greedo Unaguta Solo.
Nice.
So my cousin gave me this figure before I ever saw the Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
and I just love this figure. And in my mind, he was a good guy. Yes, he was an alien, but he was a cool alien. And then I find out he gets killed in the first 15 minutes of the movie by Han Solo. God. But I just love the colors of this figure, the design of this figure, the puppetry, the costumes, the props that they used for the Star Wars movies in 1979 and even in 1980 or 77 when this came out was just amazing. So he was always one of my favorite figures. I literally just played with this figure so much it fell apart. But yeah, he was always one of my favorite figures, even though he was, killed off really quick.
Plus, he made a appearance in E.T.
He sure did.
Along with Hammerhead, Walrus Man. So Ted, hello Ted, and Will. How are you, buddy? And now a Kraken too. This guy and the Kraken would look good side by side, I reckon, from Action Force.
Yes.
Greedo was my favorite. So A New Hope was my favorite movie out of the three before they ruined it. And Greedo was my favorite bounty hunter. I don't know why, but I always loved the cockiness of him, the arrogance of him. I always thought before they brought out they had a book called the Mos Eisley Cantina something or other, right? A novelization of the characters from the Cantina.
Wasn't it Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina?
Yes, thank you. Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina. And if you read Greedo's story, it's like he just seems to be getting downtrodden all the time. He can't get it. He can't get his lot in life. He can't make it big. He's trying his best to be the best that he can be. He had some childhood trauma, which we can all relate to. And yeah, when Han Solo comes along and pretty much just berates
He murdered him.
Well, in the end, he murdered him. Yeah, who shot first? Han shot first, right?
Yeah.
But he's one of my favorite characters, but I do not believe that I owned Greedo. But yeah, he was my favorite bounty hunter. In fact, I would love it if they revisit him a little bit better than that deleted scene that they had in The Phantom Menace. But we've got Chad here saying, I buried a Greedo figure on the beach as a little kid and spent the next couple of years digging holes every time I went to the beach looking for him. Happy accident. How are you, buddy? The only cantina dens in to have an actual name before the EU. Oh, there you go. I saw in, I think it was Toy Fair, where they had or Wizard Magazine, where they had a bunch of Rhodians, and they were named things like Ratho and what are the other 7 deadly sins? Trying to remember the movie 7.
Slotho,
yeah, they're all those.
Lusto,
yeah. 7 deadly Rhodians.
I would love to just have the Tales of Lusto's story.
Yeah. Right. Rather see more Greedo than Reva. 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
The characters that you create in your own headcanon were always the best. Isn't it interesting? Han was the only one to shoot. Yeah. Isn't it interesting that they made him an action figure? And I mean, he had nothing to do. Although, having said that, there was a bunch of Rhodians after the fact, right? Just walking around in the exact same outfit. So, and he didn't even wear this outfit anyway. He's missing his jacket.
Yep.
Yeah. So I never had this version of Greedo as a kid. I very much like you, Zazel. I found Greedo to be a fascinating character. And again, he's the only person at the cantina we really saw Han interact with. It was like the only guy that was like part of Han's backstory and not like the story going forward that we saw kind of this interaction with. So I always was fascinated by him. But it was the Power of the Force 2 Greedo figure that I saw in the stores that got me into that line. I was like, oh, these are cool. Let's Star Wars back out. But I don't know if I'm going to need to collect them. I was in grade 9 at the time. I was like, I don't need to be back into toys. Girls are more important. And then I saw Greedo, and I was like, oh, and he's in his like actual suit. And I thought that figure to this day holds up as a Dynamite figure. So I got into that because I love Greedo so much. I love Tales of the Mos Eisley Cantina. I thought that was fantastic. And then looking back at this figure at the time for such a throwaway character before he like had any of his extended universe stuff, this figure is exactly what a child's play toy should look like, right? They don't need to go into like exactly a reproduction how he was in the movie, but he pops. He's bright green. He's a cool looking alien. He's got a cool gun. I think this figure is top shelf. Top shelf.
Yeah. So I think it was what's that cartoon? The new one with the clones, the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
They're really good at creating background characters wearing the outfits that the action figure had. So I'm almost certain there was a Greedo in this outfit in that cartoon, as well as Walrus Man in his toy accurate outfit in that cartoon. So that's pretty cool.
That's super cool.
Is that just a Han Solo blaster? I can't really tell.
I never had the blaster with it. I just had the figure because with any Star Wars figure, you'd get the blaster and it would disappear after about 10 minutes.
I think that's an Imperial blaster, not a Rebel blaster. Right. I think someone in the chat will
he never
tell
shot
us.
it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
May as well give him a stick like they had with the with the Return of the Jedi. Yeah, there you go. Stormtrooper Imperial blaster, basically. Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, a great looking figure all around. Greedo was one of my favorites. I wouldn't say that Greedo. What makes him an underrated character for you then, Ryan?
It's because he died so quick in the movie.
Fair enough.
You know, it's when I got this figure, I was probably 4, maybe 5, and you know the colors popped. It was the lizard-looking alien kind of goofiness, and it was just your imagination would just run with it. And because he had such a short run, he was a forgettable character. The only time people talk about it is because Han shot him. That's it. That's his claim to fame. He got killed. So
yeah,
and it's not like they could retcon like they did Boba Fett and make him survive the Sarlacc pit. When Greedo hits that table, there is a thud. Like
there is smoke coming out of him. Although, having said that, people can get shivved with lightsabers these days and keep on walking. They'll just put a chest plate over him. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Toy kind of mood. I'm here. I'm just doing laundry. That sounds like something Ken would say. And then Happy Accident says, "I'm well. Thanks for asking. Got to bathe while listening to you. So that's fine. That's something to think about."
That's definitely not something Ken would say, though.
Kyle Roberts in the chat. That's my oldest son, Kyle. How are you, Kyle?
Oh, hey, Kyle.
Hey, Kyle.
Kyle can. He'll probably be able to tell you how often I had my action figures out as a kid, or when he was a kid.
Is he a Star Wars fan?
I mean, not as much as I was. I think he appreciates some of the stuff on Disney Plus, but I wouldn't. I don't know. Kyle, you're a Star Wars fan. He'll come back with you. I love Spock. So Brendan says, "Funny, I had my Greedo since childhood with a Han blaster. Wonder if it was a packing error." That's a good question. I reckon that must have happened all the time.
Absolutely.
I only had Wicket and Max Rebo as a kid, I think, and I don't know if they were Kenner. Probably. Well, Max Rebo came in a 3-pack with the rest of the band. So if you got him, you got all 3, or you inherited one somehow.
Yeah, it's funny when they talk about, or they're saying the packing mistakes. In high school, in the first Power of the Force 2 line, I had a Darth Vader with a blue lightsaber. And I thought, this will buy me a house one day. Like, how Kenner has screwed themselves. and I think I sold it for $17 one year.
Yeah, all right. What did they get you? A lolly?
Yeah, it didn't get me far.
So he had the bandy, you think? So that's very good. It's a good set to have. In Tales of the Cantina, Greedo's end was made worse. Oh, I can hear myself. Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. I like my voice. Hello, me. Oh, I'm gone. Okay, so I do remember that I think Han Solo stole his jacket off of him in the book. I can't remember why.
Because he's a scoundrel.
Yeah. But I don't think I don't think they were trying to imply that his black jacket came from Greedo, though, like the vest. I don't think they was trying to.
No.
Here we go. Hey guys, I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I enjoy all the movies and series. Dad definitely had cooler toys than I did. Yeah, probably.
Truth.
I'm trying to remember what Kyle had as a kid. Nothing, because I had it all. No, he would have had. I'm trying to remember what the cool series was back then.
Early 2000s?
Probably Ben 10.
No, my youngest son was really into Ben 10.
Okay.
But I did let them play with my alternators and Binaltech transformers, which they would always say, transform it into a car.
Yeah.
Transform it into a robot, and then they'd break it. And they'd go, oh, it's broken. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. That had no media behind it, but they just had cool cars. So
the worst for that was when when Transformers did the Creo. And you could pieces to build it as a robot or build it as a car. And my son's like, okay, make a robot now. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to take an hour. We had to get 2 of each set.
Yeah. All right. So where do we put Greedo then? As I think that he's a fan favorite for sure. One of the best in the line.
But whenever I see a cheap lot of figures, there always seems to be a Greedo in there. So I don't think he's like demanding high dollar out there.
Oh, here we go. So Scott looked it up. Thanks, Scott, for doing the homework for us. I just looked it up. Though pictured on the back of the Star Wars 20 and 21 back cards with a Stormtrooper blaster, the figure was packed with a Han Solo blaster. So there we are. All right, good stuff.
So which one's right? I guess it's a pick and choose. Anyway, because Star Wars fans are very particular about that, right? So
Star Wars
I wonder
fans.
too if it depends if you got the first run or if it came when they were packaged on the Empire cards too.
Right.
Yeah. But it's definitely one of my favorite characters. I don't think I ever owned the Greedo action figure, but yeah. Phil, where do you think he sits?
I've never seen the figure either. I just obviously remember him from the movie. But the image there, he looks, beautiful, like minty, excuse the pun, minty fresh. I'm sure his colors don't pop like that anymore, do they? Like if you've had this figure for 40 odd years, he would look a bit more worse for wear than he does on this image here. But he looks great. He's a cool looking
Carl
figure.
reckons the coolest figure he remembers me having was Cad Bane. Such a cool figure. Cad Bane. Cad Bane, what a great figure. Never in the original run, but one of the greatest new characters. So after 40 years, does the color still pop on a Greedo?
Can.
How's Greedo looking? It can.
Yeah. The green doesn't fade that much. He's eating his greens.
Is he eating his greens? He looks like
I haven't. I think this is actually one of the figures that holds up the most.
Yeah.
If there's no really yellowing happening there, I think that when you get a Greedo, it's essentially, does he have his gun or not? They're pretty easy to come by from what I've seen.
Don't start talking about repro though. We'll have the anti-repro crowd on our ass.
I gladly have them on my ass. Like, come on now.
All right, let's
You're
move on.
talking about toys, right? And
Yeah.
rules on what you can do with your toys.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can do what you like with your toys, mate. No judgment here. Any final thoughts on Greedo?
I want to get him. I'm adding him to my wish list.
Nice. You
He's
got to
my
get 7 of them and repaint them all differently, so you can have 7 deadly Rhodians.
Good idea.
So there's Wrath, there's Gluttony. So Gluttonio, that sounds a bit weird. Gluttono, maybe.
Gluto,
yeah. Gluto sounds all right.
Gluto.
The fatter brother of Greedo. Gluto.
It's the same actor who played Porkins, just in a Rhodians.
Yeah. Imagine hiring a fat guy to play a X-Wing pilot and then going, all right, your name's Porkins. Jeez. Didn't even put a snout on him. He's just called that.
The first ever comic convention I ever went to, I went in and the first costume I saw was this guy in this dynamite Porkins outfit. And he picked it because clearly he was like a bigger dude. And it's fine. And he looked amazing. So I took a picture with him, got in the escalator, went up to the floor, and I got to the front or to the top of the escalator. There was a much better Porkins waiting at the top of the escalator. And the guy was like, just so defeated.
That's that fat guy one-upsmanship. You're like, yeah, buddy, I look better in this than you do.
Imagine that being your claim to fame. I'm a better Porkins than you.
That needs to be a t-shirt.
Yeah, that should be a great t-shirt. I'm a better Porkins than you. Oh man! All right, Ken, we're moving on to your character. Another great one. One of my favorites. So thanks for sharing that one, Ryan.
Absolutely.
Explain this to us, Ken, because this is a head scratcher.
Well, I could have chosen Porkins, right? So
no, you
I don't
think
think he had a
there was
figure.
no Porkins figure.
No.
yeah, I know, but isn't Pro Customs making? Okay, that still wouldn't be a vintage figure. It would be a custom figure. Okay, so this is my thought on Anakin Skywalker. It was a few weeks back. You guys asked me to pick a figure. I picked one. I completely forgot why. So let's just make up a reason right now, and hopefully whatever I throw at the wall sticks. Okay.
Ken coming underprepared again.
Yes, as usual, right?
Not even underprepared, but admitting he's like, I didn't know why I did this. I just
Yeah.
picked a
Yeah.
figure.
Okay, so when it comes to the last 17, the big thing people usually talk about is how overrated they are because of their price, how expensive they are, right? Now, I picked this up my own about 6 months ago, and I was surprised at how much cheaper he was compared to all the other last 17 ones. I'm not sure if there was a way that if distribution was a little bit different. Was he more plentiful? Did people just not play with theirs because there was no play value with this? Because I look at this and I don't see a lot of play value. But I will say, relative to the rest of the last 17, his price hasn't skyrocketed by comparison, right? He's the only last 17 I presently have in my collection. The other thing about it, though, is when they did the Star Wars movies, right? They show this at the end, right? They show him in the Force Ghost, and thank you, Articulated Chat. I almost said Sebastian Stan, aka Bucky the Winter Soldier, but it's actually Sebastian Shaw. He shows up at the end in the Force Ghost look in Return of the Jedi, and that kind of closes the Anakin Skywalker arc, but that's the only time we see him. When they redo the videos, the DVDs / Blu-rays in the early 2000s, they've taken this likeness of Sebastian Shaw out and replaced it with Hayden Christensen, right? And for that reason, I think that there's a level of underappreciation for this. Kids will not know what this figure relates back to because they're going to look at the scene of the 2000s release and they will see Hayden Christensen. They won't know what this is. So for that reason, and the fact that it just hasn't blown up in value like the rest of the last 17, and we don't talk about this figure when we're talking about closing Anakin Skywalker's arc and his redemption. Just last night, I had dinner with a relative, and I said, "Who's your favorite character?" He said, "Anakin," because of how the arc of his story gets closed during Return of the Jedi there, and how he starts as a kid, goes to the dark side, wasn't the chosen one. I think this represents the final chapter in Anakin, and there's just certain things that aren't talked about with this figure. All the things I just said / made up right now, and for me, for that reason, that's why this is an underrated figure.
Ken,
not bad for winging it.
I need to say to you, my friend, like I just love everything you bring to the table. It's so amazing because you're like, this figure is underappreciated because it's affordable and it's rare. Yeah, and it closes a great story. Those are all things that would make it like highly rated in my book, right? Like this, as a kid, I remember looking at the back of packages, being like, if I could only have, like, it's so desired to have like the ghost Anakin Skywalker. Again, you didn't know anything about him; you just knew that he was Darth Vader. So, to me, like, yeah, this figure looks great. It has the like luck of being one of the last figures, so it probably has like the best face sculpt of any like human character in the line. And it has like the neat wash of paint on it to make it look like a ghost. This figure has everything going for it, and I think it is highly desirable. And I think those of us on the stream that don't have one really want one. So this is a dynamite figure, and I would say super desirable.
So he was a mail away, right?
Yeah, at first, yeah.
So how desirable was an old man Anakin ghost back then, though, as a kid? Thinking in that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's where I was going with it, right? But like, clearly for Adam, that's what made him highly rated. Is
super desirable,
right?
Yeah. So Sebastian Shaw. So apparently, Payne's Toy Sample says, "So glad I have the original trilogy VHS prior to special edition, so I can see it the way I remembered it as a child." So even though the DVD and the special edition and all of that have been out for ages now, until 1998, I still think of the ghost scene with Sebastian as Anakin. I can't do it with Hayden. In my mind, I got no issue with Hayden personally, but I don't know why they changed it. He's cool, but for Return of the Jedi, no, mate, no.
Yeah, and that's why because it's been kind of written out. I think it might have been there in 97, 98 still, because they kept that scene in until after the prequel trilogy was done. So they may have written it out. They may have made the change in 05 or 06. I can't remember now.
There was a DVD set that came out when Episode 3 was in theaters. And it was the last time it was every movie had 2 DVDs. One was a super special edition, and one was a theatrical cut. And so I remember buying that because I'm like, when are we going to be able to get the theatrical cut again? And now, like with streaming, you can't even watch it online. Like it's, it's not even Disney is crazy for not having both versions online. They're crazy.
Yeah.
Well, they're still messing with it now. What was that line that they added to Greedo recently for Disney Plus? He just says some weird word before they blast him. Someone look that up and tell me. Burnsy baby, Space Commander. What is Greedo's line before he gets shot now?
I hope it's
so weird.
I hope it's frack.
Please don't shoot me. That fat guy Ryan really likes me. Just give me 5 minutes on the screen.
There it is. He goes McClunky and then gets shot.
Why McClunky?
It sounds like he needs to go to the bathroom. You all right, mate? What do you need to do? McClunky.
McClunky sounds like a 1970s private investigating show.
Yeah.
I'll get yours, McClunky.
In black and white.
Maybe that was Greedo's safe word is McClunky.
Detective McClunky drives a Galaxy 500.
Oh man, I'm old. Can't remember why they changed it. George wouldn't leave it alone. Yeah, well, that's why he wouldn't leave it alone. Why didn't Vader disappear? That's a good question. Impossible Pie. Why didn't Vader disappear? I think. I think if anything, in all seriousness, I think the only one that should have disappeared was Obi-Wan, right? Because he evacuated into the Force. I think that Yoda probably should have just passed away and just died and not become a Force ghost, or still become a Force ghost, but don't like disappear into it because there was no real reason to. But yeah,
I remember watching an interview with George Lucas at one point in time. I think in like 2003 when Episode 2 was coming out, and they addressed that, and he said if we didn't make Yoda disappear, kids weren't going to believe he died. They were just going to think that he was sleeping, and they weren't going to have the closure of seeing him disappear.
Okay.
That's why they made him disappear.
Got ya. Anakin was redeemed as an older man, yeah. So the ghost makes sense. The Hayden ghost makes sense as well, is that he was the last he was whole before his fall. Well, yeah, I mean...
Well, and let's be honest. Why didn't Anakin look like just Stubby Bob missing one arm, both legs, and other people just floating there like Slimer from Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, yeah. So the thing, I think for me, the reason why I think what they should have done is he looks like this at this age when he dies because that's how Luke would associate him as. So a Force ghost would appear to you as you would remember them looking. Like obviously Ben Kenobi doesn't have to look like an old man as a ghost, right? He doesn't have to. He just chooses to.
Right.
Plus, if he wanted to, he could probably appear as Ewan McGregor, right? No one would want to go around eternity looking like an old man. Yoda surely doesn't have to, right? So turning Anakin young, if they did like a wipe where they all stood there young and then it wiped over as them looking old,
that would have been cool. Like
now they're going to do that with the next edition.
They're watching the stream right now.
Apparently,
it's gonna have Anakin, Grogu, and Ewan McGregor, and that's what you're gonna see.
And then everyone's gonna wonder why Grogu. Anyway,
yeah,
we've only got a few minutes left of the stream, so we'll quickly rate where we think this guy is. Overrated, rated exactly where he should be, or underrated.
I think he's rated exactly where he should be.
Bill?
You know what I think already. Under.
No, I wouldn't be buying. If I was a kid, I wouldn't be buying this figure.
He can't even hold a lightsaber.
Wouldn't interest me. But yeah, as a last 17 character, yes.
Well, there's a name. That was Greedo earlier. Greedo's new name.
Last words.
All right, shall we move on quickly before we jump over to Ryan's stream? We've got one more, my pick, which is Wicket the Ewok.
All right.
Now, here's my pitch. All right. As a kid in the 1980s, I never heard one person complain about the Ewoks. Not Nobody that I was hanging out with had any issue. Ryan, I didn't know you, buddy, but I'm sure as a child that you did have an issue. I believe it. But nobody in my circle of friends had any issues with the Ewoks. We loved the Ewoks. Return of the Jedi wasn't ruined because of the Ewoks. I think that even though they are considered to be a marketing tool to sell toys, well, in that case, it worked on me because I love them, right? But you can say that about anything. You can say that about any toy line. You know, you market it towards toys. That's why G.I. Joe had half-hour toy commercials. The half Wookiees, aka Ewoks, yeah, marketing tool, fine, that's fine. It worked for me because I loved the cartoons too. I loved the straight-to-TV movies that we got with the Caravan of Courage and the Battle of Endor. I loved all of that.
Yeah.
Gaz has an opinion saying that the Jawas, without them, Luke would never have met R2, D2, and C-3PO. I don't know about that. I reckon R2 would have been able to find Ben Kenobi okay, and there's no way Ben was going anywhere without Luke. I think it would have just happened in a different way, personally. But for me, Wicket, and by extension, the rest of the Ewoks were... You know, for me anyway, they were very highly rated. But now, as an adult collector, you hear a lot of negativity surrounding Return of the Jedi. That the Ewoks, before, if we didn't have the prequel trilogy, and if we didn't have any other extended media, Return of the Jedi would be the movie that everyone shits on. It'd be like, you know, the Ewoks are just, you know, whatever. But I never heard any of that until the internet, right? It wasn't until the internet came along that everyone was always like, oh, you know, these are just, you know, marketed for kids. They weren't taking it seriously. Here we go. I loved the Ewoks as a kid and still like the figures. I sold Wicket mid-90s and recently repurchased one. Such a great little figure. Yeah, I think that, Ewoks were savage AF. They eat people and bludgeon stormtroopers to death. They are not cuddly teddy bears. They're vicious. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Well said, Impossible Pie. Well said.
But I think that this is a very well put together action figure. It's not a cloth headpiece, but I think that it's sculpted very well. The accessory is on point. You know, I think it nails that dead eye look that they originally had. The Ewoks were trying to free their home. They were insurgent guerrilla warriors. Now, yeah, people say that it would have been so much cooler if they were Wookiees, but we got to see that Wookiee battle in, what was that, the second prequel?
That was
Revenge of the Sith. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and was it as cool as the Battle of Endor? I don't think so.
Not even a little bit.
Nope.
No.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Thanks, Gaz. Thanks, Gaz.
No, I'm all in on Wicket. As a child, I wanted to army. The first figure I ever wanted to army build was the Ewoks. I remember like looking at the card back and looking at all the different Ewoks you could get. I was in, and I'm going to say this out loud. Even to this day, Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie. Probably because it's the first one that I saw. But I love everything about it. I love the Ewoks. I think they're awesome. And having little Ewok figures and I loved little figures. Like I loved the Ugnaughts, and I loved like T-Bob. Like I loved anything that was like a smaller figure in a line that changed the silhouette of. I thought they were great. So Wicket is a hard acquire for me. This is 100% yes behind this figure.
And that final celebratory song at the end of Return of the Jedi before they ruined it, still a banger in my opinion.
If I could go back, if they said, here's the keys to Disney, you can change one thing about the special editions back, what would you do? It would be the Ewok song without hesitation.
Such a great song. Phil, you got an opinion on our good old Ewok here?
Ewoks rock. I love Ewoks. Wicket is wicked. Yeah.
Wicked is wicked. Nice. Yeah. Hashtag.
Wicked.
Yeah.
We get a
Wicked
hashtag Wicked is wicked in the chat.
Yeah. Love him.
Wicked is wicked.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi is my favorite of the three as well.
I think for us later kids, 80s and after, we probably were the. So Ryan, tell us why you hate our poor little Ewok here.
I don't hate them. They were soulless little creatures that, you know, just kind of ruined it for Right.
What do you mean that was soulless? They had so much soul.
The guy who
Well,
loved
they were
Greedo,
soulless
the Ewoks were
creatures.
soulless.
Saint's little helper. After the beginning of Return with Jabba's palace scene and everything that builds up to it, it just didn't seem to mesh well with what they were trying to do with the movie. I think that was my only problem with it. Plus, this point, whenever I went to the store, there were so many flipping Ewoks on the shelves because nobody was buying them, and all the other figures were being bought up. So that's probably the other reason I hate them. So
Fair enough. And with that, I think we've, unless anyone's got anything else they want to quickly shout out there, but we've got to jump over to Ryan's channel for the remainder of Streamathon. Very quickly, I will say thank you to Classified for the $2.99 super sticker, saying I'm late, but happy Streamathon, y'all.
Happy
Enjoy.
Streamathon. All right.
Happy Streamathon. Thanks
See
everyone
you
for
in a few-
joining us.
See
We
you in a
are
few
jumping
minutes.
over to talk to
See you
Joe
soon.
over here. If everyone can please hit this link and meet us over at Brian's
island.
channel, which is the Island of
Island
Misfit Toy Collectors.
Toy. Yes.
So hit that link. Is it on there? Link to the other stream. Yeah. How do I do? One moment, please. Let me copy this. Copy link.
It's
Comments.
it's the second one, Zazel,
There it
with the
Yeah. I'm almost certain I did that right.
You
You
did.
did.
Nice. Oh no, it's from Chad. Before we switch streams, thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Chad.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Heading over to Ryan's channel now. Good stuff. All right, we'll meet you over there.
See you all
There's the
there.
link.
See you there.
See you
See you there.
shortly.
Thank you. All right.
Listen up, Vegas. Welcome to the Slaughterhouse. Perfect.